Alrighty, welcome to part 2 of module 1. We're talking about community building again. The reason I'm not sharing my face today is because I just noticed that I have food all over my shirt and it's kind of embarrassing. So we're going to jump into part 2 for module 1, like I said, about community building. Before we get into that, I want to talk about your creative action business plan. So as you guys can see here, this is a Google Doc and it's a creative blog business plan. So basically, if you're in the Aspiring Creatives Facebook community, then you've probably seen this because this was the opt-in that I used to offer. But what this is going to entail, or what we're going over this for, is because at the end of this program, you're going to be able to walk away with this business plan completely filled out, completely tailored to you. We're going to work together towards plugging everything in so that you have a solid business plan to create your business from, right? And so we're going to break everything down piece by piece. During our coaching calls, we'll cover the parts that we've gone over. But basically, I want you guys to have something super solid to work off of. I want it to be super detailed. I want it to be tailored towards your individual goals and your needs. So what's going to happen is you're going to get an email later this week, and you're going to get a link to a Google Doc. It'll be a separate Google Doc, and I'm only going to give you the sections that we're working on at a time. So you and I are going to edit through this together, okay? So it's kind of going to be like a little project. So think of the next 6 weeks as you have these little assignments, and your overall big assignment is to complete this blog business plan. So I'll give you more details in your email, but I just want to give you a heads up. And I kind of just want to walk through the first section that we're going to go through to kind of familiarize yourself with what's going to happen and then how it sort of resonates with the modules that we're doing. So last week we talked about creating your ideal reader avatar and defining your targeted audience. So this should be fairly simple. Section 1 here, ideal client summary. And the next section that you're going to work on is going to be for your brand and business. So your vision statement, mission statement, your value proposition. I give you examples of mine, and again, you and I are going to work through this together individually, each and every one of you, so don't fret on that. The next section we're going to work on is completing a competitor analysis. And this is actually going to help you with part 2 of this module, is completing competitor analysis. And this kind of goes hand in hand with your market research that you're going to do with your audience members. So this is kind of a different side of it. It's basically studying who your competitors are, right? And then the next one is going to be developing your long-term vision, and this is actually going to be your 2019 goals now, right? And then eventually we're going to go through the rest of these, but your expenses, your income streams, sales strategies, and all that fun stuff. So basically this is something you and I individually will be working on together as we go along. And since this is a Google Doc, we can add notes to the side. And yeah, I'm really excited to do this with you guys. I really want you to have something solid to walk away from. So just something else to keep in mind as we're going along. Again, I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I just want to make sure that you have all the tools and resources you need to walk away with at the end of the 6 weeks to be successful. So, going into part 2. And again, I realize I'm talking really fast. It's probably the coffee that I'm drinking. So, I'm going to try to slow it down and step it back here a notch. So, Module 1, Part 2. I'm excited to talk about this. So this was from last week, just reiterating the goals for Module 1 on community building, which is creating a strong foundation to build off of, knowing who your audience is and how you can serve them, and creating an online community to establish yourself. We're going to push a little bit farther and a little bit deeper in terms of creating your community. So the first section is talking about your personal brand story. So this little section right here is going to tell you, well, one, why you need a personal brand story and why it's important and what it does for you. So it's going to set you apart from everyone else. It differentiates yourself from everyone else in your industry, right? Like I said, you don't need a niche, but the industry you're in, whether you're in personal development, lifestyle, motherhood, travel, whichever industry that is, think about your competitor analysis that you work on in your business plan when you think about how you're going to set yourself apart. So you're going to need to have a good idea of who your competitors are and think about the ways that you can set yourself apart from them. Secondly, it's going to help you develop alignment in your business. So having a personal brand story allows you to connect on a deeper level of why you started in the first place and just puts you in an overall alignment with who you are as a person and just kind of mixes that personal development and not spirituality, but what am I trying to say? Like that woo-woo stuff into your business so that it feels good. And I'm not saying you have to put spirituality or anything like that in your business. It's up to you. It's more personal development where I want you to, anything you do in your business, to feel good. I don't want it to feel icky and gross and salesy, right? So that's what I mean when I talk about aligning yourself in your business. Third, it connects you with your readers in a deeper, more meaningful way. It establishes your authority, which also means more trust, which means loyal followers, which means they're going to turn into community members, right? And then lastly, kind of talking about alignment again, it's going to create authentic marketing approaches. So you don't have to feel like you're being salesy. So you don't have to feel like you're being rude or pushy or that marketing's gross, right? So I want you to be authentic in everything you do. So creating this brand story and your messaging in this lesson or in part 2 is really going to help set you up for all of these things. And these things that we're talking about is basically you creating your authority, you feeling good about yourself, and you developing a story that's different from everyone else. So again, you can differentiate yourself from everyone else. You have that unique factor about you that nobody else has. I must have had a blank one. Okay. So how are we going to go about creating your brand story? So there's 4 steps to creating your brand story. The first question, there are more or less questions to ask yourself to develop your story. So the first question or statement would be, where have you been? So that would be your struggle. Where have you been a year ago? Where were you 2 years ago? Where were you 6 months ago? Where were you struggling at? And where are you now? And that would be now the present. So putting those together, how did you get from your struggle to where you are today? And you want to focus on that result or that transformation. That's your overall roundabout story of how you got to be where you're at today, how you created your experience, how you overcame your obstacles, your challenges, and how you got to be in a place where you are now. And even if where you're at now isn't necessarily where you want to be, there is still transformation there. Because at one point you were struggling and you're better than you were before, right? The present moment is nowhere near where your struggle or obstacle was, right? So think of that overall story that you can develop. And in part 1, we talked about how you don't need a niche, but you need to solve a problem for your audience member. Think about a problem you face personally and build that off your experience, right? Because you faced that problem, because you had that struggle and you were able to overcome that, you have already created experience and authority off that. Therefore, you can answer that question or that problem or struggle that your audience members are currently experiencing, because you want them to create a similar or relatively similar transformation or have that same result that you did. So it's kind of hard to read, but it says, developing your brand story requires the willingness to share your personal stories, obstacles, and becoming vulnerable. So you can't be a closed book here. You need to be open. And there is a point where, there is oversharing, but there needs to be some willingness to open up to your audience and your community members and share those raw, vulnerable moments with them. And when we talk about industries that we're all in, so some of us are in lifestyle, motherhood, fashion, travel. I want you to really dig deep. So a lot of people say, well, I'm just a fashion blogger. I'm just a food blogger, so I don't really have a brand story. I think everybody has a brand story, okay? It all started because of something, right? There's something deeper there. So it's about pushing past that fear of opening yourself up, the fear of opening yourself up and being vulnerable, and finding that obstacle, that challenge, those emotions, those stories that you can use to attract your audience to your community. So again, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, to share personal stories. And I'm not telling you to spill the beans to everyone and their mom and tell them your entire life story. That's not it. It's being able to open up a part of your heart, as cheesy as that sounds, to your audience members. It is your job to connect with your readers on a deeper level by telling that story. That way they're able to connect with it. And we're going to talk a lot about connecting with your audience members throughout this whole program because that is the goal, right? We're attracting them to your community so that it's easier for you to market to them and create paid offers and write blog posts to them and messaging. So most people are going to be more willing to become a part of your community when you've established that authority. And that authority, again, comes from creating that brand story. So the more willing they are to follow you, like I said, they're going to convert better into paid customers or clients if they know that they can trust and connect with you. If they feel like maybe not really relating with her, she's got great stuff, but I feel like there needs to be more there. I just can't connect with her. So more than likely, I'm probably not going to invest in her, right? Because I'm not sure if I can trust in her 100%. You want your readers to be able to invest in you because they trust you, right? Because you've established that authority. And a lot of you in your welcome kits wrote that you're scared. There's some fear there behind asking for money in terms of paid offers or selling ebooks or workbooks because you feel like you're not an expert or an authority. That's where in this first part of the program, you've really got to dig into that personal brand story so you have to believe that you're an authority. I already know you are. There's some story there. But it takes you believing in it. If I believe in you, that's not enough. You've got to believe in that brand story. You've got to believe that you are an expert and you have authority. And in Module 2, that we start next week, we're actually going to start talking about building up courage, overcoming fears and self-doubts, and working more towards personal development so that you are able to follow through. So the second part of this is messaging. So once you've created your brand story and you know what you have to offer to your readers, which is your authority, we can start creating the story itself. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So I want you to think of brand words and keywords for SEO purposes that describe your story. So these words are going to, one, be able to allow readers to find you, and it's going to help with your messaging as far as your blog post and your social media posts. So you're going to keep a word bank of brand words and keywords that help you develop your messaging, so you can share it in the form of content. So that's actually what we're going to do in the workbook for this part 2 of Module 1. So you have this brand story. You wrote this brand story, you know your brand messaging, but what are you going to do with it? So you can do just about anything with your personal brand story, right? My suggestion would to be put it on an About Me page or a Start Here page of your website. I think everyone should have both. And then it's also going to help you create messaging that reflects your story, which in turn attracts your readers. And we're actually going to talk more about content creation and messaging towards the last part of the module, but having this brand story strong and secure is going to help you towards the latter end of the program when we do talk about content marketing strategies. Okay, so that is the end of the slides. Really short and sweet and to the point, guys. I don't like to just dance around everything. I want to get straight to the point. So I'm going to go over the workbook with you real quick. That way we can all meet on our merry way and you guys can get to working on it. So set up exactly like the other inspired action exercise. This is the workbook for your personal brand story. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions again, and a lot of them are kind of redundant in a way, but it's because I want to get more out of you. I want you to really push a little more, give a little bit more detail. So these questions are going to prompt you to creating your overall story. So answering these questions using the work from part 1, I want you to develop your brand story here. And then again, we talked about brand copy and messaging. So using brand words and copy that's going to resonate with your audience, you're going to keep that in a word bank right here. And then we're going to create your brand identity and strategy. So this is your brand identity, what you want to be known for, how you're going to show up, what platforms you're going to develop your community and presence, and what you absolutely love about your brand. That's your brand identity. Then I'm going to walk you through creating a brand strategy, and more or less I'm asking you how you're going to go about doing that and establishing your authority. So this one is a little shorter, but like I said, I want you to dig a little deeper into this module or this part 2 lesson and really think through everything and develop a really strong personal brand that's going to help you later on in the program. So if you have any questions about this homework or the training itself, let me know. I'd love to answer your questions. And then remember, you're going to get an email with that creative blog business plan that you and I are going to work on together. If you could see me, I'm waving bye to you, but I will talk to you guys soon and see you for the next. I'll actually see you for Module 2 next week.